Well, when Laszlo says, "You know, I love you very much," she goes, "Yes, I know." I think that answers the question. I think she's in love with Rick. I mean, come on. She just
Why did you come back? To tell me why you ran out on me at the railway station?
If you only knew the truth.
I wouldn't believe you no matter what you told me.
You are our last hope. If you don't help us, Victor Laszlo will die.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. In Casablanca, human life's cheap.
Play it once, Sam. Play as time goes by.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss.
It is my rare privilege to present the award for the most outstanding picture of the year. Award for the most outstanding motion picture of the year, 1943, Casablanca, Warner.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of the Chicago Cinephiles podcast. I am your co-host, Daniel. Joined with me is James and Steven. Fellas, say hello.
hello, hello.
Hello.
We are coming today. We wanted to start this new podcast. I feel like it's a topic every year. People debate, should the whatever you want to list movie win the award for best whatever. And so we feel like it'd be fun to kind of, sort of tackle that and pick a year randomly and talk about it if we think it's going to be, if it deserved to win or not, or if something else was better, etc. Just think that it's a cool concept and something that I wanted to try. So it's kind of what we're here. This is obviously all our opinions, so that's disclaimer. So please roast us in the comments below. We love that. Tell us your thoughts. Tell us that that I'm an idiot and that James is always right, because that's real life scenario for us right now. So, but anyway, yeah. So the first movie that we chose actually was Casablanca, and usually going forward they'll be all randomized. But we wanted to pick a really good one to start with, one that we had all seen, one that we all had a pretty strong opinion about. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of started off with a bang. So kind of just going to follow a flow here of how the podcast is going to work. I'm just going to give some basic facts, and then Steven's going to jump in and give some trivia, summary. James has some stuff. It's just going to be a conversation, really. So I would encourage you guys to please continue the conversation in the comments below. We would love to have that discourse. We want to know your opinions, obviously. But yeah, gentlemen, fellas, are you guys ready to hop into the world of Casablanca?
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, some random facts about Casablanca as far as the overall, statistics about it. It was released in January of 1943, worldwide. Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be other things you guys are going to talk about, by Warner Brothers. And some of the stars in the movie are obviously Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains, and I think I'm saying it is Paul Heinrich. Is that correct? I think that's how you say his name. The budget for the movie was about $1.039 million, which translates to about 23 million in today's money. By today's standards, that would not be a blockbuster movie. However, it was nominated for 8 Oscars. And it did win Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Writing for Screenplay. However, did you guys know that it was not the most nominated that year? It actually was a movie called The Song of Bernadette, which had 12 nominations and also had 4 wins. So what do you guys think about that? What's your take on, have you guys ever seen The Song of Bernadette? Know anything about it? Love to hear your feedback on it.
I have never seen The Song of Bernadette. I've seen other movies from that year, but I've never seen The Song of Bernadette.
I haven't seen Son of Bernadette. I saw Heaven Can Wait, which is an interesting premise, but I don't think it should have been nominated.
Yeah, for sure.
For once,
Spoilers, by the way.
You know,
Yeah, and I wonder when I'm not sure if you know this, but I wonder when the Academy stopped taking. I think there's 10 nominated
Yeah.
films, and then it went to five, and then sometime in the 2000s it went back to 10. I wonder
Hmm.
when and why. Maybe we should figure that out at some point.
I've read it
Because
somewhere, but I can't remember. I think it's because there was a certain movie that didn't win or wasn't nominated in the 2000s, and people freaked out about it. Don't quote me on that, but I think
well,
that's
and I
the.
also mean from like 10 to 5, and then you know what I
Yeah, that's
mean.
what I'm saying.
That
Like it,
was.
it shot back up. Yeah.
And why only 10 films but not 10 everything else? It's just a little odd, you know.
Yeah,
I think
I,
it's
that. Go ahead, James.
I think it's because it's like the award, like you want it's like the award for the night, so
Yeah.
you want to kind of cover your bases with all the different
I think
That's
it's
a lot of good
nominations.
and
stuff.
also like, is there 10 best supporting actresses? You know what I mean? Like they could all be in the same movie.
How
So,
dare you? How
um, but anyway, enough about that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our second segment, which is just going to have Steven give us a quick little summary about the movie. And then I think he also has some articles he wants to read from the New York Times. So, Steven, why don't you take it away?
So I should start this off in a world. No, no. That my little summary. If you haven't seen this movie, trust me, this won't do it justice. But my synopsis is: it's December 1941 in Casablanca in French Morocco. A city filled with refugees from all parts of Europe seeking passage to the United States, alongside Nazis scrutinizing their presence and papers, members of the Free French underground trying to help them, and countless others financially exploiting them out of what little they have. Each evening, all of them can be found at Rick's Cafe Americain, a nightclub owned by Richard Blaine, an American expatriate who stands apart from them all, not helping nor harming anyone, but also not becoming involved in any way. His cynical philosophy of I stick my neck out for nobody is shaken when two stolen letters of transit fell into his hands, papers allowing two travelers passage out of Casablanca that cannot be rescinded or questioned. Just as the former love of his life, Ilse Lund, walks into his club on the arm of Victor Laszlo, a world renowned Nazi resistance leader. Without the letters of transit, Victor and Ilsa are trapped in Casablanca, leaving their fate in Rick's embittered isolationist hands and creating one of the most romantic, heart wrenching love triangles in cinema history. And it's a really good movie, too. So, and I don't know. This is my favorite film ever, ever, ever. I mean, I just have loved this movie.
Spoilers.
Yeah, like it. But you know, so that you won't think that I'm too much of a sort of a Warner Brothers, you know, golden era snob. My second favorite film, to be honest, is Smoking the Bandit. So that says a lot about who I am. Uh, you know, but is it anyone else's favorite film? Either of you?
Casablanca, like don't get me wrong, it's an amazing film, but it's not my favorite. Like I do kind of like what was going on at the time and where this movie was set, like how it was going on, and like
Yeah.
all the events and like the World War II reels and stuff like that would have played before this movie. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's that part is very interesting, and it's also probably one of the most quoted movies of all time,
Hmm.
Exactly. It totally is.
correctly or incorrectly.
Spoilers.
It's it's you led me right into this. One of the things that I have as far as like facts or trivia is the play or the play that became the film on December 7th, 1941. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and the United States entered the Second World War. But the next day, a Warner Brothers reader began to read the unproduced play titled "Everybody Comes to Rick's" as a possible movie. It was perfect for the studios who were looking for patriotic pictures. And then 2 weeks later, Warner's executive in charge of production, Hal B. Wallace, decided to make the film. And Warner Brothers played the playwrights Marie Burnett and Joan Allison $20,000 for the rights, the
Hmm.
most ever paid for an unproduced work at that time. And and then if that's not sort of like timing enough, the action of the movie starts on December 2nd, which of 1941, because we see the date when Rick signs the okay on his little nightclub tab or what have you. And then the film ends 2 days later on December 4th, 1941, which means there's just 3 days before Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. So it's sort of like all tied together. And my favorite part about it is that the initial release was going to be in early 1943, but they pushed the premiere up to November 26, 1942, to capitalize on Operation Torch, which was the Allies' invasion of French North Africa and the capture of Casablanca. And then when it went into general release on January 23rd, 1943, they were taking advantage of the Casablanca Conference, a high level meeting between Winston Churchill and Roosevelt.
Okay.
So sort of all sort of wonderfully tied up together.
Very cool.
You
Yeah,
know,
thank you for that. James, I know you had mentioned because Stephen, I want to put a plug in that because there's some of you talking about the war kind of leads to one of the questions I want to ask you guys next.
yeah,
But I want to, James, I think you had a few facts, and then just Stephen, I'll come back to you for the other facts you had or interesting trivia, whatnot. This is one of my favorite segments because I learned so much about the movie that you never knew.
yeah.
And so for me, these are always my favorite. So I look forward to these. So definitely, James, give us a few of those, and then, like I said, Stephen, if you'll just finish, your thoughts on the trivia, and then we can move on to the next
Absolutely.
topic.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because like what he would alluded to was the war going on. They moved up the premiere, the New York premiere before, because 2 weeks before on it was the battle for Casablanca took place November 8th through the 16th.
Mm.
Wow.
So the naval battle for Casablanca happened at that time, and they were facing, the Vichy French, with, after the naval bombardment and all that stuff, and American troops kind of landed, they were basically kind of just surrendered because they didn't want to fight that fight. But it was interesting because, like, they probably had a newsreel right before the movie
Yeah.
talking about the Battle of Casablanca, because the Battle of Casablanca was a diversionary invasion for that the Americans led for the Allied invasion
Mm.
in Algeria.
Wow.
And like I had imagined, like you're about to see this movie about right before, like you're about to see this, you just saw this trailer about the Battle of Casablanca, and you're about to see a movie about that whole process, like that would have taken place a year ago. To
Hmm.
me, that is like the most fascinating um thing about it, because like it was 40,000 men. It was at that point, one of the largest
Yeah.
allied naval battles up to that point in World War II, obviously to be ellipsed through all the other major battles, but it was one of the largest at the time. And basically it was like the wildest thing, and like people are trying to come over um to you know Tunisia into Casablanca, and the trail for people fleeing Europe, because they would flee as like they did in the movie,
As they
as we
say
all know.
in the intro.
Yeah, but that was all, you know, they're all trying to get to Lisbon. But
And it's so funny that you say that because I think they decided to call it Casablanca, or the producer did, to sort of capitalize on the popularity of Warner Brothers film Algiers. Because some people saw that, they'll see this.
Hmm.
You know,
yeah,
it's
well,
amazing that.
yeah,
And
and
apparently in the play they were it was set in Lisbon, not in Casablanca.
well, Lisbon at the time was
Was the
like,
place? Yeah.
well, at the time during when this was taking place, that was like the last place before everyone went on a steamer ship to the
Mhm.
United States or Canada or somewhere in the New World. But it's
Casablanca
like,
is much more glamorous.
well,
I mean,
I don't know. I think 1940s Lisbon would be kind of cool to see too, but Casablanca
I
has its
wish
own unique flair.
I wish we could like find the. I would love to be able to find those reels that were
I
played
have
right beforehand.
tried,
It's yeah, you're
and,
not gonna.
and if anyone can find that, share that with us.
um, yeah, it's pretty. I agree. That's very interesting about like the whole thing. And
and
James, you have
speaking
anything
of,
else, or did you want me to just move on back to Stephen with his final thoughts before we move on?
No, you can move on. I
I
thought I
was
had
just going to
enough
say
of
I've
that.
actually been to Casablanca,
Oh, really?
and I've actually been to Rick's Cafe American, which is in a hotel. It's very cheesy, but I couldn't go to Casablanca
You
and
didn't bring your
not.
Polaroids.
My poor. No, it's my
your your stone etchings
my
for
first kinetoscope is what I use for that. Thank you very much. Yeah.
No, but to sort of segue to our next topic that I wanted to ask you. So, some people say that this is the greatest propaganda film of all time. And so I want to lead with you, Stephen, on this. One, the guy who wrote the play, was he an American? And you're saying that he wrote it back before Pearl Harbor. So are you saying that he wrote it before Pearl Harbor, or are
I
you
believe
saying it was
so.
set before Pearl Harbor?
He wrote it before Pearl Harbor, so he
So
had been
okay.
in Lisbon, I believe,
Okay. So
and
then
seeing all of these refugees. And
So then my question would be is one, do you think this is both of you? One, do you think it's the greatest propaganda film of all time? And two, how do you think things would have changed if he would have wrote it in February of 42 as opposed to a week before D-Day? Do you think this was his way of trying to get, because just so you guys know, everyone is listening, I have my degree is in history, and FDR was looking for a reason to
to
get
get
us into the war. And so I almost wonder, not saying that like FDR conspired with this guy, but I almost wonder maybe this guy was an FDR fan and wanted to try to nudge the general public into being more pro-war. So I'll leave the floor to you guys, but yeah, so tell me what you guys think. Is this a propaganda film? And then do you guys think that that the playwright was doing this to kind of nudge us into the war? James or Stephen, go first. Doesn't matter who.
well, I'm not sure when. I mean, it looks like it was completed. They completed the play in the summer of 1940. That was when the
Okay.
play was written. So, and they really couldn't get it produced because the character of Ilsa, who was actually named Lois in the play, was very different, and was not married. Was sort of, quote unquote, a loose woman. So there were people who didn't want to produce the play because of things that were said and things that she did and whatnot. And I mean, I've never read the play. I've heard people who have to say it's not as strong as the movie. So they were deciding to like take this property they had and maybe it could be made into a movie. So they sent it to all the studios for that reason. So I mean, as far as it being the best propaganda movie, if you're talking isolationism into involvement, yeah, I would say that's very, very much a great movie for that. But as far as propaganda, in other words, I'm not sure. I mean, I just think it's about you know sort of rallying people to become involved and to care again. I mean, Rick is such a stand-in for the United States in so many ways. He's just so over everything. I stick my neck out for nobody. I mean, he is America. He cares, but he's just done. You know what I mean? And I think for as far as getting America, to get involved in the war, I think it's a great piece of propaganda in that way.
Well,
James?
I look at the time, and you're looking at this. You have America coming out, you know, of the Dust Bowl. Like, the
Yeah.
Dust Bowl was basically farming practices. FDR kind of turned that around, but the Dust Bowl is still very real in most Americans' minds. You have the Great Depression. So not only that, not only an ecological disaster, you had a huge financial disaster where 25% of Americans are out of work. So,
Mm.
like, could you blame the United
Oh
States
yeah.
wanting to, like, the American people not wanting to be involved? Because historically, the Monroe Doctrine, we only care about the New World. We don't care, like Europe does
Hmm.
whatever. That was very
Mhm.
much the status quo until World War II.
And
Like
with
we only
World
got
War
in,
One being right fresh in their minds, my guys, they had people who had passed or died in that war, so it's not very hard to make the leap to say we don't want to become involved anymore.
yeah, like, and then like the horrors of World War One is still fresh in people's minds, and
Hmm.
Horrors.
at that time, United States military, let's face it, wasn't very good.
Hmm.
It's only until the industrial might of our is turned on to overdrive that pulled the United States out of the Great Depression that did that. So like if you look at the time,
Hmm.
if somebody's agenda is to get us involved in the war, like FDR very much wanted us to be involved in the war, because love it or hate it, we kind of needed to be there. It's like the
Yeah.
idea if you didn't stop, you know, you didn't stop Germany, and then you're basically going to have nothing left in the democracies in the Western world.
Hmm.
It
So,
al-
like,
it also helped with the economy. That got us out of the depression
Oh,
because people
absolutely.
yeah,
you force you to go back to work.
yeah, everyone has to go to work, and not only that, you're overemployed than you were before because like a lot of the women had to go into the
Hmm.
factories when all the men started serving. So I can see why, because it pulls on the heartstrings of Americans. Like,
Hmm.
so I think in general, love it or hate it, Americans, like when they go places, they believe, if or not, that we're going to improve the place.
Hmm.
That's to be debated, but it is a great propaganda film for getting Americans to care
Absolutely.
after dealing with the horribleness that they've had for the last,
Oh, yeah.
you know, 3 decades. Oh, also Spanish flu. I don't want to forget about the Spanish flu. That also happened.
Yeah, so I do think so. The Spanish flu was obviously World War One. I do think that it is the greatest propaganda film of all time. And I'm okay with that. As a historian, like I kind of look at a different perspective. Like I think we had to, like Stephen was saying, there's nothing for democracy to come back to, or maybe it's James, I don't remember, but there's no democracy to come back to, so we have to get involved, which is not always fun. But we had to do what we had to do, and I just think that I don't have a problem with Hollywood doing these type of things because it was needed. Now you can say it's a slippery slope, um, but which I think we'll get into in a few minutes, a little bit more about the movie itself and some fun things. But overall, I agree with you guys. I think that it was a propaganda film and probably one of the best. I mean, I don't know too many other Oscar winner propaganda films.
Well,
Um,
it was the 1940s, so you had like Disney, Warner Brother cartoons. They all had cartoons where like they were just kind of
Oh, yeah.
propaganda. Like everything was kind of geared that way, intentional or not. It was just like we
mhm.
need to come together. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and it's Warner Brothers. Of course, it's Warner Brothers because Warner's was the grittier. MGM wouldn't have made this movie, not in your life. This is the sort of the we're gonna deal with the issues that are happening right in front of us right now. So of course it was Warner Brothers. I watched another movie that was what for the best picture this year, Watch on the Rhine, and it's just as gritty and dealing with dealing with getting Americans into the war and dealing with what Americans sort of don't see and the horrible problems that are going on in Europe that Americans are completely blind to. Warner
Mhm.
did that. So
It
you're right.
definitely it definitely romanticized it because they didn't bring up any of the horrors of war, but yeah, I think we ought to agree on that. So
Reading about the production code, you're like, I doubt they could do anything. I mean, my gosh, this movie
um
was really sort of really nuanced, maybe in a good way or maybe in a bad way because of the production code. So many things they
well,
could or couldn't do. He
well, if you're
couldn't. I mean, there's no way that she could have left her husband for him, for Rick, because of the production code. That period. So they knew that he was going to have to. She couldn't leave him even if he died. They were talking about that. But that was sort of set in stone because you can't have a married woman leave her husband for another man. Boom.
hmm.
So like it was sort of. I think that's why a lot of the writing we believe is better from that point because they had to work around so much. They couldn't just sort of bluntly say things. They had to sort of find ways to say things, you
Yeah.
know, which is a lot better. I'm shocked about gambling going on here.
All right, so let's move on then to James, I'm gonna start with you. Tell me what your favorite quote of the movie is, if you have one.
oh, it's the plane one where if you don't get on that plane, you're gonna regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day you will regret it. That has to be like the
Oh
best
yeah.
best line of the movie. Like it's such a
That's
good
that's
line. It's
tough.
It's like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great lines, but it has to be that line, in my opinion. That's what the like everyone quotes it. It's great. Fun
Just
fact
just for
in
reference.
college.
Say it again.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Fun fact in college, I had to actually do an impromptu speech with that quote,
Hmm.
you know.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so it was always like the round where it was all movie quotes, and like
That's cool.
five of the quotes were like Casablanca.
All right. And just for reference, people who may not know the quote, I'm not Humphrey Bogart, obviously, but I'm going to read it. It says, "If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life." I agree. Love that. I'll go next if it's okay, Stephen. I think my favorite one is it's actually a random one, and me and you've talked about it, Stephen. It involves Claude Rains, who's like the local
Prefect of police.
police air quotes, corrupt police officer. He is trying to there's a young couple who's trying to escape, and they say basically like, "I'll be there at the crack of dawn." I think they may say 6 a.m. or
We'll be
something.
there at 6.
And
I'll
then
be there.
his quote is, "I'll be there at 10." I just think that's a great quote. I just love that, because it's like, I'm not getting up early for you, like nothing. To me, that's mine. Steven, what's yours?
Uh, another Claude Rains one. I'm shocked to find gambling going on here. You're winning. Thank you very much. I mean, the best delivery of the funniest line in the whole thing. I mean,
He has some good ones. I like the one where he
I
talks
mean,
about like, what does he say when he's like, "I'll shoot you in the heart," and he's like, "That's my
that is my
least
least
sensitive
vulnerable
or
spot.
least vulnerable spot." Like, there's so many good lines like that. No, I agree.
I
Claude
just made out
Rains.
20. What is he says?
ra-
I get 20. Maybe how about a bet for 20? Make it 10. I'm only a poor corrupt official.
uh, round up the usual suspects. They
Yeah.
he has so
What do
many
you want?
great ones.
He does. He
So many
really
great
does.
lines.
No, and like we're doing a disservice by only naming three or four. There's so many to name, honestly.
Well, no,
What
this
is
is
it?
going to be a good segue there, Daniel, because like one of the things I was going to bring up is of the American Film Institute's list of top movie quotes.
Yeah.
Casablanca has more on the list at 6 than any other movie. They have at number 67 of all the gin joints and all the towns
Yep.
and
That's
all
a
the
good
Yep.
one.
world. She walks into mine. Number 43 is We'll Always Have Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Number 32 is Round Up Usual Suspects. There you go. Number 28 is the one that people usually, mess up. Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by. Number 20, Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And number 5, here's looking at you, kid, which was never in any draft of the screenplay. And
Really?
I believe what they say is that Here's Looking at You, Kid was something that Humphrey Bogart said in one of the first scenes they shot, which was the Parisian flashback scenes. He just improvised it,
Wow.
and they liked it, and they brought it back again and again. And he says the same line in a movie called Midnight from 1934. Not sure if he improvised it there, but it's the same thing he says. So they just really liked that line. I mean, that to me is really
And
cool.
well, the one that James reference is not in there. The one about the if the
No,
plane leaves the
because it's
wow.
more of a speech
I
to
guess it's
him
a
than a
speech. Yeah, it's not a
yeah.
one liner. Well, and that kind of talks
Uh,
about Steve and I talked about the Mandela effect, where you mentioned it. A lot of people think it's play it again, Sam, but it's a fact. It's apparently he says play it once, Sam, for old time's sake. After
Play
he
it.
feigns ignorance, she responds, "Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by." It's so funny how we sort of trick our mind into thinking that kind of stuff.
It's just the whole Luke, I am your father thing.
Yeah. Okay. So now we want to move on to the cultural and technological impact it had on society. I want to start this one because I don't have a ton, but I want to come at it from a different angle because I think of this group, I'm one of the only ones that really watches a lot of like YouTube. And I want to bring this up because I watch a lot of movie reactions on YouTube because for me, it's the only way I can rewatch a movie for the first time again is to see someone's reaction, see if they gasped when I gasped, or see if they, picked up on the subtle hints. Love that. For me, that's like my go get them. And oftentimes I will usually pick like other movies than this. Because usually they'll like Lord of the Rings, for example, is kind of the one I always look up because that's one of my favorite movies. However, a lot of people watch Casablanca, and I can say, for lack of better terms, it's clickbait because they know a lot of people are so passionate about it. Even like today, when I was on
Mhm.
when I was YouTube this morning, just had stuff in the background suggested for me was a new video of a person reacting to it, and they had 10,000 views. And
Wow.
I looked at their page, and that was already their most viewed movie or their most viewed YouTube video. And so to me, that's an impact that can't be overlooked because there's a lot of people that are doing that for a living. I know that may sound stupid, like compared to other stuff, but like I just didn't want to repeat the same thing. I want to kind of give that a lot of people watch this movie because they know it has a fan base, and I think that's really cool. Personally, I think that's neat that you know. Like because like I'm gonna be honest with you, I watch them. I usually click on them right away when I see them because they're fun to watch. I like to see people's opinions, especially like newer generation. Even though I'm not that old, I'm only in my 30s. I'm kind of an old soul, and so like I love watching like 20 somethings be like, I never knew a black and white movie would be good, and like to me, like that's just furthering that movie to the next generation. However, you have to do it, whether it's YouTube reactions, whatever. It's just so for me, that's my answer. I think the cultural ramifications in that aspect has been really cool, honestly.
Whatever brings people to the movie. Whatever brings people to the. I mean, I saw the movie on Valentine's Day one year and it said sing at the music box here in Chicago, and it said "Sing along with Casablanca" was the way they promoted it.
Mm.
And so I'm with my friend Karen, and there's a young woman, maybe 25, sitting beside me. She's alone, and she's kind of nervous. And then all of a sudden, before the movie, the Wurlitzer they have comes out of the ground, and they start doing a sing along to like these old timey love songs. And she went, "Oh, thank God." And I said, "What?" She goes, "I thought they were going to add music to this movie that I love so much, and I was going to lose my mind." And I was like, and she said, "I love this movie so much," and I was really nervous about coming. Like so, there's something that sort of keeps people coming to this movie,
Hmm.
and again and again and again because I don't know what it is because they didn't even think they had something that was a hit. It was one of 52 movies they made that year,
Wow.
but it's just so. And for all the writers that were on it, all the changes that were made, it's just magic and celluloid.
No, it's like this is a prime example of, Hollywood studios, everyone showing up to do their job
Yeah.
and getting it done. Like, like they had all these actors pulled everywhere, and like a lot of the actors that were big major stars in the European theater that came to the United States trying to break in took smaller roles.
No.
So like it was a truly international cast that was in that movie. So it's like I don't know if it's like one of the first movies where it had that type of talent, but
Mm.
obviously the famous actors that I'm having a hard time saying right now. But like, it had so many different people and like different perspectives, and that the singing of the French national anthem,
Hmm.
They're feeling that.
yeah,
They are
because
feeling that song in that moment. That's not acting for those people.
And James, I don't know if you're going to lead. I don't want to steal your thunder if you're going to lead down that path, but those people in that all those extras, they actually were refugees from the World War II. So like they were they were shouting it because like James, like Steven said, it wasn't acting. Like they had their homes uprooted. They were fleeing the war. So like they were of course they're going to be passionate.
Oh God.
Like you always talk, like you ad-lib. Go ahead, kid. No, give it over. First, I want to thank all those who participated in the making of this picture. To Mr. Wallace, the producer, to Mike Curtiz, the director, to Humphrey Bogart, Miss Ingrid Bergman. I'm not nervous, kid. Take your hand off my wallet. Where was? Oh, yes, Miss Bergman. To Sidney Greenstreet, Peter Lorre, and in fact, everyone in the cast. I just can't think of them all because I didn't know we were going to win. I'd have rehearsed more. It was really a great pleasure, a tribute to our industry, and we feel very proud at Warner Brothers for this honor. Let's hope we meet again next year, and you really are on top. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Yes. Did you see George Washington?
Want to wrap this up. So next couple questions kind of be a little more rapid fire. Who do you think she was? Stephen, I'll start with you. Who do you think she actually loved more, Laszlo or Rick?
Well, when Laszlo says, "You know I love you very much," she goes, "Yes, I know." I think that answers the question. I think she's in love with Rick. I mean, come on. She just says, "Yes, yes, I know." I mean, have you ever had someone say, "I love you"? Yes, yes, I know.
I mean,
I
I
mean, come on. I mean, that to me is the end of it. Plus, it's Rick. I mean, come on. I mean, he's just the coolest guy in the world. So, yeah, that's what I think anyway.
No, that's a great answer. James, what you think?
I also think it's Rick, partly because of that. Like, I think she might have made peace when she thought Lazo was missing.
Hmm.
Like you didn't know what was happening at that time, so I think she probably made peace and moved on. And then, so I would say Rick too, but it's because I'm Team Rick.
I will play the devil's advocate. I will say that okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna take it in a way that's probably not fair. I think that Laszlo loved what he did more than he loved her.
Oh, 100%.
So I think in a way, Ilsa is the side chick for his purpose. And so I think that she loves him for that reason. I think that but I also think he's the easy choice, maybe the safe pick, because I doubt that whenever they got married or met each other, I doubt he was wanted by the German government just for being a Jew, obviously. And so I wonder, is does she love Rick because it was fun being in Paris, but she's more suitable being with Laszlo. So I'll just play the devil's advocate and say that I think she loves Laszlo more for what he loves, if that makes sense.
He does love her. Laszlo loves her because he's willing to say, "Rick, take her, take her away,
Well,
put her on the
no
plane."
one's denying that, but that's my argument though,
But I
is
would
that
say instead of a side chick, I would say she's his muse. I mean, she's the thing that sort of fires him up, and I think she knows that, and she falls in love with that or
I
enjoys
think
that.
yeah, that's a good
You know,
point, true. Because that probably, I'm sure, like she helped him get through the war or get through the concentration camps just by him thinking about her and stuff. You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like knowing there's someone there.
exactly. And she says she
James,
was
you
very
look
young when she
perplexed.
met him.
Right. So, all right. So if you think about it, the end of the movie, she boards the plane because he's telling her basically you have to go. So this is my reading of like kind of that part. Like she's in love with Rick, but for the greater good, filling into the propaganda piece,
Mm,
he has to go with Laszlo. That is my kind of I know it's not an original take on it, but that is what I think dealing with that is. Like I think she did it for the better good and reinforcing the propaganda because, he is one of the
love
resistant
it.
leaders and has all the
Yeah.
information.
No, that's a very great point. No. Yeah, that's great. Like I said, I don't think it's really a wrong answer or right answer, but I think it's just kind of fun. Please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are, because I'm sure people are going to have opinions. Last couple questions, we'll wrap it up. Okay, so just so you guys know, we all try to watch a movie or two from each week prior. Obviously, the movie that won, but we usually try to pick a movie or two that was up for nominees or whatever, but didn't win. And the one that I watched was the Oxbow incident, and so I will argue that it was a good film, but in my opinion, the Oscars got it right that Casablanca should have won. Oxbow incident is very good. It has Henry Fonda in it, who's one of my favorite actors. It's only about an hour and 10 minutes long, so it's very short. But I think based off of that, and I've seen a couple of other movies from here, nothing that really jumps out that I can remember, but I know I've seen a few of these. For me, Casablanca was the right winner. James, I know you mentioned you would watch one. Tell us about what you watched, and do you think that Casablanca deserved to win?
Casablanca definitely deserved to win. I watched Heaven Can Wait, and that is a great premise for a movie, but it wasn't solid. Like it was just kind of drawn out and it wasn't as solid as Casablanca. I'm not going to say it was a bad film. It was an excellent film. It was just
Not
wasn't that great.
timeless.
No, not timeless like Casablanca is. And then I have seen the Madame Curie movie, but that was years ago, and I can't remember that off the top of my head.
Perfect.
That's not a
So
good sign.
we're two, yeah. So we're 2 for 2 in agreement. Stephen, take. I think I know your answer. You kind of spilled at the very beginning, but
Hello. Yeah.
well, I'll pretend. What did you watch this week, and do
I
you
watched
think that it
Watch on the
deserved it?
Rhine. Watch on the Rhine. It's a Warner Brothers movie with Betty Davis and Paul Lucas,
Hmm.
based on a play. I've forgotten who wrote the play. Lillian Hellman, I think. But it's a very good movie. I mean, it's Paul Lucas is tremendous in it, playing sort of the same kind of Victor Laszlo kind of character who's now in America and whatnot. And it's scored by Max Steiner, who scored Casablanca, but it just doesn't have some kind of a connection to it that Casablanca does. I mean, there's all this intrigue, there's all this humor, there's this incredible love triangle. It's just it really good, and you're kind of rooting the whole time for Rick to sort of you know stand up to be the guy that he has been, and we all know he wants to be.
Mm.
That's what the what is his name? His friend says, you ran guns to Ethiopia. You fought in Spain on the loyalist side.
Oh
The
yeah.
winning side would have paid you much better. We all know who this guy is.
Yeah, he's sentimentalist at heart, right? Isn't that what? Who says that? Is it Claude Rains that says
That's
he's
Claude
sentimentalist
Rains.
at heart?
Claude Rains.
No, but I agree. And just for reference, guys, like everyone's listening, IMDb, which is kind of what I like to use. I know it's not perfect, but IMDb gave Casablanca an 8.5. The next closest was actually the Oxbow, which was an 8.0, which is what I watched. And then Heaven Can Wait got a 7.3, and then Watch on the Rhine got a 7.1. So they kind of
Oh,
all
wow.
agree. Obviously it's based off of people. It's not like critics, but the fans kind of agreed with us. So last thing, and then we'll pick
Oh,
the
and
next.
I have one thing I have to say before this goes, because I found this piece of trivia that I can't not say.
Okay, go ahead.
In the early 2000s, are you ready for this?
Oh
Are you
boy.
sitting down? In the early 2000s, Madonna wanted to remake Casablanca with herself as Ilsa Lund and Ashton Kutcher as Rick Blaine. Do you hear this? The ridiculousness.
Are we getting punked here?
No, no, no. I mean, and she wanted to apparently put it into present time, and she wanted to move the location to Iraq, but she didn't say what city. So I'm thinking Casablanca to Abu Ghraib. Like, what is this going to be? No studio would touch it.
Thank
They
God.
said you can't redo this classic. But Madonna as Ilsa Lund. I mean, you ruin Evita, and that's not enough for you. So come on, you got to take out everything. So when I saw that,
No, I appreciate that. I did not know that.
A homosexual cannot have that happen. I'm sorry. We have to stand up.
So then I'm gonna come to Steven last for this one, but James, where do you rank this? Like is this in your top 10 movie number one? Where would you put this in your movies of all time? Is it top 100? Like where is it for you?
It's definitely in the top 10, but I have a lot of weird, crazy movie selections. I would probably put it at 8. It's like in my personal top 10.
What's the
But
weirdest of your sort of movie top 10? What would you say is your weirdest? What you believe?
like, honestly, I like the Grand Budapest Hotel. Like that to me is like an amazing film.
Yeah.
And then like Big Fish. So you can kind of see
Yeah.
Loving Vincent. You can kind of see that I'm a little more off the wall. But Casablanca is probably the more normal of the movies that I like.
And you're still into it, yeah.
So for me, I definitely agree with you. I had watched this years ago in college for the first time, and honestly, my friendship with Steven has really made me appreciate it and watch it more over time because his passion about it has really bumped it higher for me. So I would probably put it like 5 or 6 maybe as my which down the road we'll get to my favorite movie. Unfortunately, it didn't win the year it was nominated, so we'll get to that. But I'm gonna put it like my top 5. Steven, obviously, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's your favorite of all time, so I don't think you're really nothing.
And I have to
we
say,
need to add there.
this is my litmus test for people who, if you want to be in a relationship with me, you have to like this movie. And if you don't, and I tell you that before you watch it, And if you don't like it, well, it's kind of dark. Well, they don't end up together. Yeah, because she'd be in a concentration camp. Like, how can you? I gotta tell you, you've got to like this movie, and then screw that up. So, in college, my
Fellas,
roommate used to say that, like, "Oh, you're showing him Casablanca. Oh, let's see how long this lasts." So,
fellas, do you hear that? If you're all dating applications,
and I'm sure they're all dying because they
please
didn't
send
like
to
it. Obviously, there's a line out
casablancalover
the
at
door.
gmail.com. All right, y'all. Overall, I think we're summary. I think we all agree it deserves to win. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually share my screen so we can show the fans or viewers that we are not picking. We're not nitpicking. We're going to pick whatever
Please
is the winner. So let me pull up my
pray for us. Pray for us.
screen. All righty, and then I
No
think
whammy, no whammy, no
I think I can
whammy.
I can full screen it. All right, guys. Say
Oh,
all your
dear.
prayers.
I
Oh,
see.
actually,
Okay,
hang
Okay.
on.
good.
Let me take Casablanca off real quick. Hang on.
Oh yeah, we don't want to rewatch. Well, I would rewatch
I
Casablanca
watched it.
again.
Hell, I've watched it
Oh, I would
110
too,
many
but I'm
times.
just saying, like we don't need to watch it for the
Who's-
thing.
Man, what a beauty of the bad. Look, there are a lot of good ones.
Let's see here.
Ben
So
Hur.
we will remove that,
Oliver. Oh my goodness.
and then we will full screen it, and we will let the
I'm
face
going to say it's going to be
decide.
terms of endearment. What do you think?
Let's see what we get. Our next movie is My Fair Lady from
Oh,
1964.
how
All right,
homosexual of you. How
I
great.
have never heard of this movie, so this will be new to me.
I have heard of it. I don't
Okay.
think I've seen the full movie,
Oh
So,
my Lord.
so it's
all
gonna be
right.
a whole
Well,
thing.
let's not have Steven have an
Oh,
aneurysm,
I
but
want to scream somewhere. Come on.
yeah, gentlemen, any final thoughts before we close out the evening?
I just think it's one of those movies. It's just magical. And like I said, I love that young people find it and however they come to it, whether they
Yeah.
watch something on YouTube or whatever, they fall with it. And again, it's always important for us to realize when it came out and they didn't know if they're going to win this war or lose. I mean, there's so much that was up in the air. And like you said, there's a reel before this movie about Casablanca, and then we were watching the film called Casablanca, set in Casablanca. Talk about meta. So it's such a charmed film. It really is.
James, any
Still would
last
be now.
words?
You can't you can't mess with the classic. It's one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Madonna.
No, I
So
agree. I think we would all recommend this movie to everyone. But well, I think that does it for week one. We appreciate everyone sticking around. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Especially if you guys like this type of thing, we want to know what movies you prefer, so we can watch older movies if that's what you guys want. We're down to do whatever. But yeah, we appreciate everyone coming out today, and see you guys next time.
arrivederci.